You commit $50 million a year reportedly to somebody, he's practically the executive that he wanted to be last offseason when he finally showed up. Oh, and look, Rodgers is joining us now. Connor Rodgers, that is. We did not plan this, but it is good to have our old buddy Connor Rodgers here from Bleacher Report and Pro Football Focus. Can't wait to dive into draft with you, but first and foremost, let's just combine these two blockbuster transactions. Rodgers staying in Green Bay, Russell Wilson going to Denver. Before we get into specifics of each one, what's your major takeaway about this day of fun on the quarterback front so far?
Well, thanks for letting me crash the party, guys. Always good to talk to you. It's just been chaos. It's hard to even keep up with right now. I think the most notable thing is it felt like as soon as Rodgers obviously went back to Green Bay, that Denver had a true plan B to the point where all the terms were immediately worked out with. And Seattle, interestingly enough, turns the page to a rebuild with the oldest coach in the NFL and Pete Carroll. So I think that's fascinating to me where now they're picking in the top 10 when they didn't have a first-round pick because of the Jamal Adams trade. Did they look at their quarterback of the future? Because let's be real, we don't think it's Drew Lock, right? How much of a contender does this make Denver? Of course, because they still got to deal with Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert within their own division and a Raiders team that was kind of a pest last year. And then for Green Bay, I think this gives them kind of that Bucs motivation of last year of how do we find a way to keep everyone? Can we keep Zadarius Smith off the edge? We're going to franchise Devontae Adams and try to work out an extension with him to keep him on a parallel timeline with Aaron Rodgers while he's here. So this kind of allowed everyone else to get their real NFL offseason going.
So Michael and I got going already on the Russell Wilson front. There wasn't much disagreement when it came to Aaron Rodgers. But with Russell Wilson, Michael, if I may speak for you, Michael feels like Seattle just completely dropped the ball, that this was a mistake to trade him in general, let alone what they got for him. I like this trade for Seattle. I like them hitting the reset button and moving on from a quarterback who had one foot out the door since he put out his list publicly last year. And they just mentioned the lack of draft capital that they already had, the holes on this roster. Yes, Pete Carroll's the oldest coach in the league. I like the trade for Seattle. Michael is weeping for the Pacific Northwest right now. Where do you come down?
That's right.
I think the issue with it, when you talk about Russell Wilson, a bona fide top 5 quarterback in the NFL for a while now, the return is always going to underwhelm you, right? Now, the hardest part of all of this, guys, is projecting what he is going forward, because he did not look like the same guy to me this year, but that offensive line hasn't been very good, and it felt like a relationship. From knowing who I know in Seattle, it felt like a relationship that both sides wanted a fresh start. For the longest time, it kind of felt like quietly Russell Wilson wanted that fresh start. And finally, the Seahawks had come full circle and they wanted that fresh start. So I'm curious to see what they can do with the ammo that they now got in return for him, because this trade can look really ugly. It's not a great quarterback class. We know that. So them picking in the top 10 this year does not mean that they are absolutely getting the future of their franchise. Are they going to look to move out of that pick and get more ammo and load up for 2023, which has a much more promising quarterback group as it stands right now, and really accept that this is going to be a true rebuild, a 3-year rebuild? And then for Denver, on the flip side of it, I really like the trade because, number one, I don't think the return was absolutely insane. You have a win-now roster that has been hamstrung by the quarterback position for how long? Because whether it was Teddy, whether it was Drew Lock, whether it was failures to trying to address that position, we know even if Russ starts to decline, and that's not a proven thing yet, he has talent around him now that elevates his game again. They have a young running back in Javonte Williams that they can rely on and hand the ball to 25 times a game if they need to.
Oh, I love him. I love him.
Yeah. Oh, he's going to be a top 5 running back in the NFL next year. You got good wide receivers. We know what that defense can do, especially with the corners that they have and Justin Simmons' safety. I just think when you look at it, this was a win-now roster. Denver had to do this. Seattle, a little bit more questionable, not going to lie.
Yeah, you know what, Connor? It's way too early on March 8th to do this, but let's do it anyway and look at the AFC. So you had your AFC Championship game participants. You had Kansas City, great quarterback, Patrick Mahomes. You had Cincinnati with Joe Burrow, divisional round. There it is again. You got Josh Allen, another terrific quarterback. So now you add Denver and Russell Wilson. If you look at the AFC, if you had to call it now, let's do it, just for the sake of this. Who's the favorite in the AFC? Is it Denver?
I think it's the Bills. I'm going to be honest with you. From what we saw from Josh Allen, and I know they came up a little bit short, but I think when you look at everyone's roster, right, they have the best chance at not only continuity, but a chance to get even better. I mean, I think we almost forget with the Bills, they were missing one of their best players in Trey White due to injury in the playoffs. He has been a cornerstone for that defense for a long time. They're getting him back. They're going to make flexibility with the cap space to add to that roster. They have picks to get better. Of course, the Chiefs are a team with Patrick Mahomes that are always going to be right around there. The Bengals, I hate to be come off as a hater here, right? But I feel like this was a little bit flash in the pan this year. I would be surprised if they could replicate.
Talk to me, baby.
Talk
to me, baby. Hold on. Hey, Connor. Take your time. First of all, slow down. Take your time. Can I get you a drink? Can I get you a drink, bro?
Hey, take your time. Let's have some fun.
Connor, can I have a moment? Connor, could you just
Please,
step in something?
take the floor.
Connor, a moment. No, I'll give it right back to you. I just want to have a private moment with Michael Holley. Excuse us for a second. You fraud. You fraud. Because you sat there and you talked about, oh, I've come around on the Bengals. I'm all in on the Bengals now. I see the light on the Bengals. And then you kissed Zach Taylor's ass when he came on the show. You acted all nice. You made sweet eyes with Zach Taylor, talking about how much you're in on the Bengals.
buddy.
The first time somebody expresses skepticism about the Bengals, you get excited. I knew you were a fraud. Connor, continue.
I'm excited. No, Connor is a
hater to your heart.
Connor's a great analyst. I didn't say anything about Zach Taylor or the Bengals.
When you said flash in the pan,
I didn't say,
he jumped out his chair.
I just want to
expose
listen to
yourself
Connor.
for who you really are. When somebody shows you who they are, believe them. Go ahead, Connor.
I was very curious how that would be received.
Connor, I apologize. I apologize for my co-host, Connor. He's very rude. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I love it. This is fun, right? This is, with the Bengals, man, you can't, and I know they got there without an offensive line, but you can't fix an entire offensive line in one offseason. And with the way this draft is going to play out, they're in the position where they're going to miss the wave of the ones that I really, really value as true plug-and-play starters until they prove to me that they'll go out and give out true guaranteed contracts and take their swings in the market. It's kind of hard to just rely on free agency with them, and you're going to have to keep up with the Chiefs that are an absolute wagon, the Bills that are an absolute wagon. I mean, we didn't even get into the fact that the Chargers should take a big step this year with Justin Herbert. They need to, and they have the 17th overall pick. They're going to make a real big add with that pick, whether it's on offense or defense. The way this draft is set up, that's kind of the window to get a really good player in this draft. So it's hard for me to love the Bengals right now. And then you talk about Denver. It's one of those things that you really need to see it, but they're absolutely in the mix in those top four teams.
I'm just going to take this opportunity to point out that the Bengals have more cap space than any other playoff team. But I like you, Connor. So I'm going to just go ahead and let that slide and move on. Let's just move forward amicably. I'm not going. Yeah. Let's just keep it pushing and talk about the draft. Love what you do for Bleacher Report as well as over at Pro Football Focus with the NFL Stock Exchange podcast. So look, number one, there's some intrigue at number one. Most people think it's offensive tackle. Some debate as to which one, Evan Neal or Ike Ekwonu. I know you love Aiden Hutchinson and feel like the Lions are just going to fall over themselves for turning that card if Aiden Hutchinson is at 2. Just what's your read on the top of the draft post-combine?
Well, it's interesting that we're having this conversation today because Jacksonville just franchise tagged their left tackle, Cam Robinson. So now everybody's looking around going, what does this mean for the future? I don't overreact to things like that because with the offensive line, you're building in 2 to 3 year windows. You're not looking to build it in Band-Aid windows. So they are still, to me, a favorite to take one of the tackles. And I do think it would be Evan Neal as much as Ekwonu. He's my top offensive lineman. I think he's going to end up my top overall player. But I think that they are going to fall in love with Evan Neal's size, length, that athleticism to be a cornerstone on the left side. He started on the right side. He started at guard. They're going to love that versatility with him. So I think for Jacksonville, guys, honestly, there's a real field there. They are afraid of the perception of failing Trevor Lawrence. So when you hear all those things for so long, you find it so hard to believe that they would take a defensive player number 1 overall in this draft no matter what because of the way the perception is about how poorly they constructed the coaching staff and the roster around the former number 1 overall pick. They need to find a way to get it right around him. They have a ton of money to spend, but the offensive line class gets thin really quick. So if you don't convince guys to come to Jacksonville, then you have to go to the draft. So I think if I was a betting man right now, I would go with Evan Neal as the number 1 overall pick. And then, yes, the Lions would sprint that card in to take Aiden Hutchinson. Then the real draft starts with the Texans at 3.
So you say sprint to Hutchinson. So I'm guessing you think Hutchinson is by far the best player in the draft, or is he the best by a hair over Neal or someone else?
I actually like Kayvon Thibodeau better than Hutchinson, but just coming off the week in Indy. Yeah, coming off the week in Indy. You know, it's interesting when you're like a draft analyst, right? You bring the things to the table that you hear or know, and then you bring your opinions to the other side of the table. And for me, I start this process in June every year. Kayvon Thibodeau started out as the number 1 player on my board, and he has not left that spot. And I don't think he, like I said, Ekwonu could pass him, but it's offensive line. He's still going to be the top edge prospect for me, and that's a group that has Aiden Hutchinson in it. So I look at Thibodeau. I don't have these personality concerns that are the hot new wave to talk about with him. I think he's an interesting guy. I think he's a bright guy. I think he does like football, and if you watch 3 years of him at Oregon since he was a true freshman on campus there, you would see that with the way he plays. The athleticism is excellent. I know Aiden Hutchinson's a good athlete as well, but when you look at Thibodeau, a former 5-star kind of guy, he's lived up to those expectations. He's going to come in and be an excellent player. Just because he's not Myles Garrett or Chase Young or a Bosa doesn't mean that he can't come in and be a big-time player. So just because teams love Aiden Hutchinson, and you have a couple factors with the Lions, the local aspect of it, the fact that they think his floor is higher than Thibodeau, things like that, doesn't mean that he's long-term a better player than Thibodeau could be.
Thank you. You made up for your Bengals slander by speaking
it's
our
all about
language.
balance.
We are the official cheerleading squad for Kayvon Thibodeau since we talked to him at the Super
right.
Bowl. All these personality questions, look, I guess skipping out on the combine isn't the best look, but we'll see what he does at his pro day April 1st. All right, speaking of freakish athletes, I just want to focus on Georgia. And I guess which of these combine performances stood out to you the most / will have the most impact at the top of the draft? Davis, Wyatt, or Trayvon Walker, which, most experts would suggest that that's one of the best combine performances they've ever seen. So just hone in on the Georgia defensive line prospects in particular.
Ironically, all of them. I think Jordan Davis was a fringe round 1 player in the eyes of the NFL because of the fact that he played, 50% of the snaps and is a run-first defender compared to somebody like Devontae Wyatt, his teammate, that has more pass rush juice. Now with Davis, you have one of the most ridiculous things we've ever seen at this event at that size. You kind of wonder,
the 40
okay, we get
or the broad jump. All of the above.
It's all insane. Or the impression of The Rock at the interview. I mean, this guy is a character. He's unbelievable. The things you can do when you go to a nickel, and a lot of teams are base nickel right now, you can play him in the middle of your line, and you could have a lighter box and put more defenders on the back end. He could change your defense. Wyatt kind of, falls into play for someone like the Raiders that need an interior player that's a 3-down guy. Stop the run, get after the quarterback. And then you look at Trayvon Walker, who is going ahead of all of them. He's going in the top 10. He is what we call a traits-based prospect. What he was asked to do at Georgia is mostly play a kind of a tweener position on the defensive line. He is a run defender first that is still figuring out how to rush the passer with a plan. Right now, he is all power, and he's got a lot of that, but everybody is strong and fast in the NFL, so there will be an acclimation period for Trayvon Walker. But a team will bet on that in the top 10. Somebody like the New York Giants right there, or now the Seahawks at 9. They will bet on that in the top 10 to turn into 2 years from now a high-end pass rusher. And I'll sneak one in here for you guys. Their safety, Lewis Seen, who ran sub 4.40. I love him. I know everybody's obsessed with talking about Kyle Hamilton in the top 10. Lewis Seen deserves to be a first-round player and has made the safety class very, very interesting. That is a historic college defense.
Well, speaking of historic, it was a great year for, I'm being balanced, Mike, great year for Jamar Chase, the number 5 pick in the draft, and went in and set some records and helped the Bengals reach the Super Bowl. And I say that because I wonder if there's another prospect in this draft that you see as hey, this team that didn't have a great record in 2021, they draft that guy. He has the ability to transform a bad team, help take a bad team to a playoff team. Who's that guy?
Oh, man, I don't think this draft has one, to be honest with you. But if you're looking for somebody to come as close as possible to that, I think Sauce Gardner can be an eraser in a sense where you put him out on the field and you say, you are going to trail the number one. You are going to be the absolute alpha dog of the secondary. You come up and play and run support. He's an incredible personality, such a confident but humble personality that came in as a 160-pound recruit and has transformed himself into this 6'3" shutdown man-to-man corner that's going to be a top 10 pick of the draft. When you have that kind of player that can erase number one wide receivers, it forces the quarterback to completely ignore that side of the field. That makes a gigantic difference on any kind of defense or any kind of division. So while this class doesn't have that superstar talent with the ball in his hands, and it's a good wide receiver class, but there's no Jamar Chase. That wouldn't be fair. There's not going to be a lot of Jamar Chase level prospects in our lifetime, guys. Sauce Gardner is somebody that can come in and completely change your game plan and really frustrate offensive coordinators for a long time.
I got two more questions for you, and they're sort of related. I think it says a lot that we've waited this long talking to Connor Rogers, lead draft analyst for Bleacher Report, and not gotten to the quarterback position. Now, Malik Willis, I mean, great workout, even was a good Samaritan while he was in Indianapolis. Kenny Pickett, small hands aside, seemed to impress physically. Desmond Ridder certainly did not hurt himself in Indianapolis. The supply and demand of quarterbacks, they always get pushed up higher than they should. How high could we see any of these quarterbacks go after what they've done in Indy and what we expect to see them do the rest of this draft process?
It feels like the top 10 is kind of that, the latter half of that top 10 is the ceiling. And you're probably looking at Malik Willis because of the traits, because of the ceiling. You can bet on him and say, okay, he might need a little time. And honestly, I think all of these guys need time. But he could be a superstar. That's how you draft a top 10 pick. You look for a superstar. So Seattle now has to do their homework at 9. Carolina at 6 has to do their homework. Carolina has to figure this thing out. And the answer is not Sam Darnold. We know that. So I think Malik, and the Steelers obviously can move up from 20 to go get him. That's going to be very expensive now. So I think Malik Willis is the guy that can really flip this draft upside down and shake things up just because of the talent that's there. He really checks all the boxes, whether it's traits, character, everything. He's just such a polarizing player in a sense of everybody wants overnight stars, and you might have to let him be one of those guys that marinates a little bit and gets acclimated, like Trey Lance last year, to be fair, like a Trey Lance that everybody knew needs a year. I mean, obviously Malik's coming from Liberty. Trey came from the FCS, and when you look at it, he just needs a little bit of time. But as much as I don't love this quarterback class and think it's going to be hard to have one in the top 20 players of this draft, Malik is the guy that's the home run swing, and that's the way the league is going. You don't win playoff games usually by hitting doubles on quarterbacks, besides Jimmy Garoppolo, which that team has carried him for a long time. You need the stars. You need Joe Burrow. You need Josh Allen. You need Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers has been there a lot. So I think that's why Malik's going to be the guy. And then Kenny Pickett will go in the first round. Obviously, I think his ceiling is around a Derek Carr level player, which is not very high. There's not a lot to tap into there with him being an older prospect and the style of play. And then I think everybody else is kind of looking at the beginning of the second round.
Okay, and you touched on it. The last thing I have for you, Seattle now in that 9 spot where you guys at the NFL Stock Exchange had Jermaine Johnson going to Denver, the edge player going to Denver with the 9 spot. Maybe Seattle starts to look quarterback. Maybe it's Malik Willis or somebody like that at 9. Maybe they wait. But also the other big news of the week, it feels like a lifetime ago that Calvin Ridley was suspended for at least the 2022 season for gambling. With Atlanta at 8, you guys at the Stock Exchange had Kyle Hamilton projected there in your latest mock. Then that happens. Obviously, they have Kyle Pitts, who's a tight end wide receiver type, so they don't necessarily need a 1. But could the Ridley news, coupled with the this trade today, Russell Wilson to Denver, now putting Seattle in the top 10, those two things at 8 and 9, what's the domino effect there? Does the wide receiver and quarterback run start earlier than anticipated?
It's got two things, right? Number one, it could be the wide receiver run. You can take a Garrett Wilson, who I compared to Calvin Ridley before everything happening. I think he tested a lot better at the combine. You could take Garrett Wilson and say, hey, we're going to get this thing restarted with Pitts. Garrett Wilson, we're going to bring back Cordero Patterson, and we really like our offense. Even as Matt Ryan gets to the end here, then we know when we draft a rookie, he's coming into a really good situation that Arthur Smith can build. Or the one that I like a lot better that gets interesting, maybe 8's the hot spot you give a ring, right? You say that's a roster that needs a lot more cost-effective talent. They'd be willing to move out and get more draft picks, which I definitely think they would. You got to jump Seattle. You got to jump the Commanders. All those teams that want quarterbacks. Are the Steelers feeling crazy? Did they call Atlanta and say, we love Malik Willis, we'll come up to 8 to get him? What's it going to cost? It would probably cost, obviously, pick 20, maybe 2 second-rounders. It would be a little bit of a hefty price, but if you get your quarterback, your franchise quarterback, it's worth it. So I think Atlanta is now the jumping point, that launch point to go get the first quarterback off the board.
Oh, wait, I lied. I beg your pardon. Everybody, I'm sorry. I apologize. I do have one more question. I would be remiss. See, I could do this all day with you, Connor Rogers. I'm so excited to talk to you. It's been too long. It's our time of year. Matt Araiza, dog, I got him in the 3rd round. See, I think the 5th round, no chance. 4th round, you're risking it. I think we see a 3rd round punter, dog, at minimum. And I would do it in a heartbeat, no hesitation. Give me the punt guide all day, dog. Talk to me. Talk to me about my guy. Yeah, that's right. Go ahead, Mike. This don't concern you. This for real draft nicks right here. This for real draft fans. This ain't got nothing to do with you. Go ahead, Connor. Talk to me about Matt Araiza, baby.
He's like the Boobie Miles of special teams players, right? He could punt, he could kick, he could tackle, he could paint the back porch, he could do the whole thing. I think that's what's a lot of fun with him is that, it's a rare player when imagine in a world where you only have to use one roster spot for both your punter and your kicker. I think a special teams coach or any coach would have a dream of that. Now, I don't believe in drafting special teams players until day 3 of the draft, so we'll see if he breaks a trend. I know there's obviously been kickers taken very early before, but I think now everybody's scared of that, especially after the Aguayo situation in Tampa a couple of years ago. But Ariza, he's got a lot of fans.
Miss me with that.
He's got a lot of fans right now. I think the 4th round is the sweet spot.
Okay, and I think a lot of people think it that way, which is why you got to take him in the 3rd. At least that's what I would do. I'd take him in the 3rd and be happy with it. I would take you 1st overall, Connor Rogers. Thank you for the knowledge, brother. Keep up the great work with PFF.
Thank you, Connor.
We'll see you again soon, man. Let's do this on the regular, especially as draft season heats up.
Guys, so fun to talk to you. Always a blast. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for watching Brother from Another on YouTube. Make sure you hit subscribe before you leave, and be sure to watch us 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Peacock. Appreciate you.